While in total, there are 6 ad objectives you can choose from on the back end of Facebook Ads Manager to create ads to generate leads for your home service based company. You honestly want to focus on one main objective, which is leads. Now, within that ad objective, you can choose multiple ways to create your ad to reach that potential customer lead, if you would. And we're going to talk about it right here, right now. There are 4 ways to create these ad campaigns on Meta. One of those is to create the advertisement and channel them to a message, whether that is on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram Messenger, so they can send you a DM. The second way you can create these advertisement is to essentially get that potential lead client to call your business line. The third effective way to create an ad campaign to generate leads is what we call the conversion campaign. Last but not least, my most favorite is what we call the instant form campaign, better known as the Facebook form. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Fit for Business with Jared Lane. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor and tap that subscribe button. And as always, if you're listening on Spotify right now, tap that follow button. Really means the world for us to show the support. We are on episode 3 of Fit for Business. Let's get rock and rolling right to it. So historically speaking, from the data that we have on the archives here at our agency, and just from speaking with other marketers and just reading and learning, what we know and what I know is that where areas to get your lowest CPL, your cost per lead, is typically on the Facebook instant form campaign. And that's what we're talking about today here in this podcast. We're talking about advertising on Meta. That's the platform. Meaning, and if you're not familiar with what the Facebook instant form campaign, allow me to address that. So let's say you're scrolling on Facebook, Instagram, you see a sponsored ad pops up, right? So you're on your newsfeed on Facebook. See an advertisement for Joe's Pressure Washing. Great. You're a home owner and you're like, hey, this is great. I happen to want to get my house pressure washed this spring. And the ad randomly popped up. Voila. That's how advertising works, right? You see this ad, you're interested, you click on the advertisement. Boom. That opens up into potentially, hopefully, a Facebook form, which it would have to because Facebook would not allow you to create the advertisement unless that Facebook form was integrated. There, typically, the marketer or the company will ask a random question that kind of aligns with the actual ad itself. I don't know if there might be a potential offer, a lead magnet, what have you. You'll enter in that information. You'll enter in your name, your address, your email, your telephone number, whatever that marketer or company has set up to have exported into the instant form. So that instant form, essentially, depending upon if you're watching this, and how you have your back end set up. If it's just strictly sitting there on the back end of Facebook, you got to go in old school, download it to a spreadsheet, and or maybe you have automation set up to get the leads funneled from Facebook to a CRM that may be attached to your website, your Facebook ad account, and or you have, again, other automation set up in place. So that is the Facebook instant form, one of my most favorite campaigns to run for our clients where we see the biggest bang for our buck. And their buck, I should say. Lower cost per lead. The second option, which is another favorite of mine, is what we call the conversion, right? A website conversion. So essentially, the end game for this ad objective or campaign, let's say you saw a similar ad for Joe's Pressure Washing, right? Homeowner, again, boom, I see this ad. Great. I need this potential service to come, power wash the siding, get the mold and crap off my house. Cool. I click on the ad. Now, instead of using the Facebook form, the conversion either has taken me to a squeeze page, a landing page, or a website. And the goal is for that individual, in this case, Jared, seeing these ads to submit their information to Joe's Pressure Washing. So in return, that gets funneled to you as a lead. There you have it. There are our 2 favorite, types of campaigns on Meta. This is where we're talking about specifically. No other platform to advertise. If you are a home service provider, you're a pressure washing company, you're a painting company, you're a general contractor, you're HVAC, you all fall under that category. Going back to episode 2, last week's episode, if I were you and I own this business, this is where I would be investing my marketing dollars to generate leads in 2024. Do this, trial this. I'm not saying to throw your money and just wipe your ass with it, so eloquently speaking, because nobody wants to just throw away their marketing dollars, especially when you're a small business owner. That's your own coin, right? So you want to make sure you're really adhering to specific advertising guidelines. You're doing the proper targeting. You're literally just not boosting a post. You really are setting up these advertisement campaigns on the back end, straight up, and that's what you need to do. Now, again, I keep on saying this, and I'll keep on hammering and chipping away at this. Make sure your back end is set up accordingly. And next week, on next week's episode, we'll make sure to take a deeper dive into what I keep talking about when it comes to your back end being set up. We'll go down the rabbit hole a bit more next week on episode 4. Let's shift gears now, shall we? This is called Fit for Business. So we're going to be talking about marketing, and we're going to be talking about being in shape, being fit. Did you know this? And I did not know this. I will wholeheartedly admit, I did not know this statistic. For someone who constantly has been working out since, 2002, especially the most past 13 years aggressively. I did not know this stat. On average, the human body roughly burns anywhere from 1,300 to 3,000 calories per day. Nuts. And I'm not even talking about including weight training, running, or any type of exercise. Just on a normal day, depending upon what you do for a living. Depending upon what you do for a living, Monday through Friday, 7 days a week, whatever it may be. Maybe you work remotely, so you are sitting for a good portion of the day, but maybe you speak a lot on the phone. You're working. You are burning calories consistently. Again, it's not the same thing as working out. By any means, I am not going there. I was just making a generalized statement that every day, as human beings, we burn these calories. So now let's say you are a laborer, or you are a contractor, you're a bricklayer, whatever you may be doing. You are pumping and cranking out and exerting effort ongoing for 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, depending upon how much business you have, how much work you have going on, and what's going on. So you're pumping it out. Your energy is just through the roof. Now, let's look at it if, somebody was a stay-at-home parent, a mom or a dad. And this is referring to people who have kids that are mobile, meaning that your child is crawling, is walking, is on the constant move. So, these are kids probably over 1 year old and maybe aren't going preschool yet. They're not in UPK, they're not in kindergarten, they're at home with their mom and dad. These kids are on the move constantly. So make no mistake, somebody in that position, you're burning roughly, a higher end of calories, maybe that of which almost were, in a bricklayer. I'm not comparing the two, but this is just a known statistic apparently that I had no idea that was there. 1,200 to 3,000 calories on average per day the normal person burns. For those of you, watching and listening, maybe you've heard this timeless principle, the 80-20% rule, right? 80%, 20%. It matters 80% of the times of what we're putting into our bodies as far as eating and the cooking that we're doing. And the 20% is the effort that we're putting into our active lifestyle, right? Whether that's just, getting your 10,000 steps in today, per day, you're running, you're weight training, you're exercising, whatever it may be. 80-20, that's what it's all about. I'm sure you've heard this by now. So again, in fitness terms, that we're looking at that, 80% really comes down to, in layman's terms, how eating plays a major factor and role in our body, in our society, hands down. Like, the data is there. Our eating habits affect our emotions. It affects our complexion. It affects our metabolism. So you've heard the expression, not to sound cliche, we are what we eat. Your homeostasis, that's where it's all about. So Jared, what do you do for the 80-20% rule? If you guys are wondering. So let me tell you what I do and how I go about it. So for as long as I can remember, probably going back on now, 7 years or so, I've been tracking my macros. Hardcore on an app when I first started. For a few years, I was adhering to, certain grams of protein, carbs, and fat per day. Hardcore was tracking it for quite a few years. Then I stopped using the app because at that point in time, I was like, I generally have an idea of how much I need to eat on a consistent basis to stay at the same level. I just know it. I was still weighing, my protein, and I was still eating consistently, more or less every day for years what I usually eat, which might sound boring to you. It sounds boring to my wife, and it is boring to my wife. That's why she doesn't let me do most of the cooking, and I'll get into that in a second. Again, getting back to tracking my macros, I am back to tracking my macros, and I do use an app, which I was using years ago. It's called Avatar Nutrition. Pretty good app. Right now, my current macros are as follows. I'm at 183 grams of protein, 397 grams of carbs, and 110 grams of fat per day. So that's my daily goal and my number to hit every day. I increased that and I changed my whole macros up just because of, the program I'm doing right now for the next 60 plus days. I'm more active, working out 7 days a week. So, I need to intake more food. How do we, how as a family are we able to maintain like these healthy lifestyles daily, right? What do we do? Even though my wife and I both work more than full-time hours, we work, a lot. We have kids, we own a home, so there's a lot going on a daily basis, We do manage to meal prep. Typically we do our meal prepping on Sundays when there's not so much shit going on the weekend, which normally there is. We have so many things going on this weekend, so we're just gonna have to find the time. My wife is the one who always comes up with the game plan on the weekend. She's like, all right, what do we need for the store? What meals are we making for the week? And I'm just like, if it were up to me, we would eat the same thing day in and day out every day, which could get mundane and very boring. But for me personally, I'm okay with eating grilled chicken 7 days a week with a side of rice or a side of potatoes and maybe minimal vegetable. I could be happy and content. And then when it comes to my breakfast, I'm eating 4 eggs a day with my protein, and then I'm having my 2 slices of white toast. But for me, that works. Not so much for my better half. She wants to spice things up. She wants things to taste good, and that's fine. I do some of the meal prepping throughout the week or on the meal prepping day, and then as a family, we like to have fresh meals. I know it sounds boring as hell, but meal prepping, I feel, and maybe some of you watching and listening, it really does set you up for success, right? So this having the meals ready and prepared allows us to be boom. We have dinner ready. We want to get our kids to bed at a decent time during the week. And we want our children to, eat healthy. We want them to have colorful plates so they're looking at it and like, hey, mom, dad, what is this? We don't want to eat this crap. Not that they've said that. Well, maybe they say it in other terms, but if you have kids, you know what I mean. But at the end of the day, as parents, we're role models. We have to make sure that we have our vested interest, not only for ourselves, but for our children and our family. When it comes to meal prepping and cooking and eating and adhering to that 80% rule, there's definitely a fine balance, and you have to do what works for you. Hopefully people listening and watching this video, they don't eat fucking fast food every day, once a week, once a month, hopefully at the most. Hopefully not at all. I mean, I'll be transparent, and this is for me. The last time I had something I would consider fast food, it's been a long time. Long time, my friends. I will retract my statement because I do consider Chipotle fast food. Some of you may be thinking, oh, that's not fast food. But I guess, there's give and take. I don't have Five Guys. I don't have Burger King. I don't have McDonald's. I've never had Chick-fil-A. Believe it or not, I've never had Chick-fil-A. So I don't even know what that's all about. I hear good things. Meal prepping really does set up our household for success in order to, have those meals ready throughout the week because we're just constantly going 24/7 at full speed. And when you're married, you have jobs, you have kids, there's a lot on your plate, and you gotta make sure you're fully prepared. You don't want your kids eating fucking chicken nuggets and fries every fucking day of the week. Again, as I was saying, our goal, my goal as a parent is to be a role model and show my children the proper way to eat. Now, again, this necessarily doesn't need to eat like I eat 24/7, and that's fine. They're children. They need to enjoy their lives, enjoy growing up. We're going to do our best to make sure they have fresh cooked meals daily. I may be extreme, and this is what works for me, and this is what works for our family. Others, you may say my life is too chaotic. My life is too hectic. Obviously there are so many meal prepping companies out there today, that could help alleviate time, because that's what it comes down to, time. Those types of businesses, it's pure gold. I will add with this, P.S. I do not cook the majority of our meals at home because no one in my family wants to eat like me daily, every day. And that's fine. But big shout out to my wife, as per usual, for spicing things up and also making the meals healthy and enjoyable for our family. There you have it. That was episode 3 in a wrap. Stay tuned for next week for episode 4. Thanks for tuning in, guys.